So I didn't post a video last week, but that's because I got fed up and I got frustrated with creating art, and that's what this video is all about. The question is, why do artists fail? What do we do that distracts us enough from what is important and what we should stay focused on that we just can't seem to motivate ourselves, or we just can't seem to stay focused from day to day? The first thing is, it's very difficult to pace yourself. Obviously, when you're running a marathon, you don't want to run as fast as you possibly can from the start. You have to pace yourself or you're just going to burn out. Same thing with art. Art is an activity, but it is also a difficult activity. It's something that requires a lot of focus and time and energy and thought, and you have to break things down step by step, and you have to take it one day at a time. The nice thing is, if you're practicing the right way, you develop good habits, and it's easier and easier to do things over time because you are just in the habit of doing it all the time. But it's just as easy to develop bad habits. I believe that the best way to practice is to break things down into basic shapes. Drawing has taught me so much about breaking things down into their simplest form. That's one of the most important things I've learned, is just breaking things down into basic shapes. So if I'm looking at a character, I draw cylinders for the arms and legs, I put a sphere for the head, sphere for the hands. You get the idea. Same thing if you're drawing something out in nature or in real life. If you're drawing a tree, draw the shapes that that tree is made out of. Maybe a couple of squares stacked on top of each other, squares that make up the branches. And the same thing for any other shape that you're looking at. Drawing has helped me improve my understanding in 3D so much because everything is comprised of very, very basic shapes. I almost got burned out working this week. It was so stressful just to continue working, and you see how many times I show up in a different outfit in the bottom left corner here, because it was over the course of 2 weeks that I was working on this character, and I had no concept of what I wanted the character to look like. I didn't sketch anything beforehand, I didn't have any concept art, and that created some serious problems for this sculpt. And I just kept hitting a wall after wall, trying to figure things out, trying to understand why I was making this character. I didn't have any concept, I was just creating. It was kind of a mess. That is why it is so important to have concept art, to have a character already fleshed out, have clothing, have the design and the style already thought up ahead of time, because when you go in 3D, then it's going to save you days, even weeks of time. I probably could have finished this character in 3 or 4 days if I had had a concept for it, but instead I went in blind, and it took me forever to figure out what I wanted from this character. You'll see that it kind of evolves from like a futuristic sort of weird looking whatever to like a witch by the end of this video. I seriously spent most of my time just concepting, trying to figure out what I wanted, when I could have easily done that on paper if I had just sketched something out ahead of time. Now, that's not to say that you can't concept in 3D. There are professionals out there that concept in 3D faster than some artists can concept in 2D. I'm trying to get to that point. That's something that's a personal goal that I'm trying to work on, but I'm not there yet. Did a little vest jacket there, and again, had no concept of what I was doing, and if I had gone back and actually just drawn something on paper, this probably would have looked a whole lot better and been a lot more fun to make. But, you know, it was still fun. I made some wrinkles and, you know, made a basic shape for it, but then, as you can see, I just kind of lost my focus, and again, it just turned into nothing, and it's just sort of like a flappy vest because I have no concept. There is just literally nothing for my brain to go off of, and that was my biggest mistake again. The hair I actually kind of had fun with because I've been wanting to do hair for a really long time now. I finally sat down and learned how to edit curves and create brushes and all that stuff, and turns out it's really easy to do, actually. I just made a couple of different strands, and it was actually a lot of fun. Again, going back to concept art, I think it's just important to understand the shapes of hair, and I didn't really understand that getting into this. I really should have just broken down the shape of the hair strands in clumps. A lot of popular artists do. They just break it down into big basic shapes, and I did not do that, and I did not concept anything, and I really should have. Again, coming back to concept art or having an idea of what I want to do, because the hair looks like hair, but it's not really impressive hair. I don't know, it's not really anything that interesting to look at. But regardless, I got it done. I ended up making some hair which looked pretty cool, you know. I would say all in all it's a success as a learning experience, but it is not an overall impressive sculpt because I did not have any concept yet again. So anyway, what's my whole point with all of this? My point is, as artists, we fail because we expect far too much of ourselves. We expect ourselves to be able to do incredible things when we have no experience and no practice. It's just as easy to get discouraged if you are not as good as somebody else, or if you look at somebody else's art that's amazing and you look at your own and say, I'm not as good as them. That's okay. So why do artists fail? How can you improve yourself as an artist on a daily basis? Step number 1 is to draw more. Drawing helps you break down shapes, helps you understand what you're looking at, and it just gives your brain something to digest, whether you're working in 2D or 3D. Step number 2 is to practice the right way. There are some days when you feel like, oh, I put in my time today, I practiced, but there's good practice and there's bad practice. Good practice is breaking things down, visually thinking about how things are constructed so that the next time you reapproach it, you're going to understand it better. Step 3, don't compare your work to other people's work. This is a great way to get burned out. That's kind of what happened to me the last couple of weeks. All I've been doing is looking at other artists and finding art that's amazing online and looking at my own stuff and saying, I'm not that good. How do you think all of the good artists got to where they are today? They practiced. They did a lot of work and a lot of time, and you can do the same thing if you practice every day or if you practice frequently enough that you get better at something. And my last point is to have reference. Whether you're practicing, be looking at a rock or a tree that you're drawing, if you're working on a character, have a piece of concept art in front of you. Just have something to look at because our brains are not good at remembering information, and it's always a good idea just to have some kind of reference up that you can be looking at. Anyway, that is all the time that I have for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate your support. By the way, I hit 200 subscribers and I didn't even realize it. Thank you so much for supporting my channel, all of you guys out there. I hope that this video was helpful. Have a great week, and I will see you next time.